remotely learn. So I wanted to make sure that everybody on the call was cognizant of that as well, because that's a little different than what we originally anticipated. So want to make sure everybody's clear with that, that the primary topics that we set this up with to talk about started out with summer school, I think primarily, and then perhaps some other topics have come up. So perhaps we could start with summer school.
Yeah.
And start there, and that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yep. So if you'll just raise your hand or put in a note, then we can kind of go in order, because I know there are a lot of people for this one.
Well, hi, it's Tyler with Fox 8. Jensen, do you mind if I go ahead?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. And Dr. Contreras, thank you for your time today, and the rest of the staff with Guilford County Schools. We appreciate it. I do want to start. I know, and I have questions about summer school, but I do want to start another topic that we're hearing from a lot of parents. And one thing that was mentioned by Dr. Contreras in the last news conference is that school is the safest place for all students to be. And I'm curious what, Superintendent, your reaction is to the attack at Southern Guilford, where 5 people who are not affiliated with that campus got inside a building and attacked a 14-year-old student. I know that we've reported on this, and you know what your reaction is to that, and was policy followed that day, and should there have been a lockdown?
I didn't hear the last part of it. I heard you say my reaction and then something else. The last part of your question, please.
Yes, ma'am. So your reaction to that incident, and was policy, district policy followed that day, and should there have been a lockdown at the school?
Yeah, so clearly it's very disturbing that an adult would encourage young people to come to a school to fight, attack another student instead of resolving conflict in a different way, instead of telling the administrators and school officials that there was a problem. Based on our conversations with the Sheriff's Department, yes, the policies, school policies and procedures were followed. Doors were locked. These individuals were helped into the building and were escorted to the classroom. And those that assisted them are being addressed both by the District Code of Conduct, and my understanding is through the judicial system as well, as is appropriate. But did the staff follow all of their safety procedures and protocols? Absolutely. Is this a difficult situation when there are individuals helping to allow individuals into a school building? It certainly is. And when you have a grown-up, an adult, a mother who is contributing to this, it makes it more difficult. But yes, the administration followed procedures.
And just to follow up on that, you know, in light of what has happened, is the school district doing anything or making any changes to their safety policies? I know obviously we have a situation where, you know, the students and the other individuals got into the school by that door being open, but is there anything that the school district's doing different, or any kind of thing to make more investment or make changes to the security systems there at schools?
I think we always have to be diligent and try to be more diligent. I think as the Sheriff Department indicated, and our high school principal stated, that there was no capital investment we could have made that would have stopped this particular incident. There are investments we can make that can stop some other potential incidents, but this one, there was a parent entering a building being helped by students, by Southern Guilford students, to enter locked, secure doors. So absent having adults at every single door, we're not really certain how we could have prevented prevented this particular situation, although we certainly are investigating that even more. And the principal's being very reflective about that. We've been working with him, working with the sheriff's department to figure out what more can we do? Because I want us all to think for a moment, if a parent shows up at a building with students, it was the first day of finals, where the remote students were returning for the very first time with masks on. They'd never seen these students. So they think a parent is coming in, bringing the students in to take their final exams. Under what situation would SRO or the teachers have stopped that parent if they're behaving in a very peaceful manner? They did not come in behaving as though they were going to walk into a classroom to attack someone. There wasn't suspicious behavior. So this situation was very complicated and tricky for the administration. But certainly we can always look at this and see what can we do differently to make sure that students are safe. But it's always a reminder that no one has to resolve any conflict on their own. We understand this stems from a community situation the night before. So had one of the students who was involved or that mother only called the school or call the district office or call the police department to say there was a problem the night before, we could have intervened. And that's how we intervene in most situations, because someone talks to us. We have good relationships with parents, with students, our school administration and teachers have great relationship with students and community, and we're able to intervene early. In this case, no one said a word.
Yeah, I'm just going to go down the line. News 2, anything on summer school or anything? You're muted.
Oh, it's always going to happen at least one time. Hi, I'm Manning, WFMY News 2. The first question that I have in relation to summer schools is just kind of the general sense of, as we start to open back things for schools across the state, what can students expect at Guilford County for summer classes? How will they look different? It's kind of a general gist for parents who may be trepidatious about sending their kids back, or who are just as excited about getting them back into the classroom.
I think at this point, all of the students, most of our students have been back in school. About 75% of our students have been back in school full-time since April. So I don't think we have many parents who feel a great sense of trepidation. If you're speaking about the virus, I assume, about COVID. So, but for those who have not returned yet, certainly they may feel some angst, but as they walk in, they'll see that there are still protocols in place. Certainly, as more teachers and students are receiving the vaccine, we are loosening up on many of those protocols, consistent with the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services and CDC guidance. So schools are going back to normal, slowly but surely. And I think that's what this community wants. It's been a rough year and a half, and we are looking forward to resuming school as close to normal as possible. I don't think it will ever be exactly the same. Certainly, we're all very cautious. We know that COVID is still very much a reality in the community, in the state, in the world. So we're still very cautious, but we're trying to get students used to being back in school and around one another.
And just continuing to go down my list, anyone from the High Point Enterprise?
Dr. Contreras, can you hear me?
I can.
Dr. Contreras, this is Paul Johnson of the High Point Enterprise. Thanks for taking my question. When will summer school officially start? And when it ends in August or later this summer, what will be sort of your benchmarks for success in addressing learning loss?
So summer school begins June 14th, and I do not believe we'll be able to address all of the significant amount of learning loss that students have experienced during the summer months alone. But I do believe that will be a good start. And what we're trying to do is make sure that there's some continuity to the spring semester. So what we are trying to do is make sure that we don't have another extended break. And that's what the summer school experience is providing. We're also trying to make sure that secondary students, middle school students, and high school students who may have had difficulty with a course or even failed a course as a result of so much remote learning, not being online every day, or just falling behind as a result of not being able to keep up with the remote learning, are able to retake courses. And so at the end of the summer, the expectation is not that all that has been lost will be regained immediately, but that students are in a much better place, and that they are resuming the sense of normalcy that I talked about a little earlier, that they're getting used to just being in school and being full-time students again. I think we're just trying to get them back into the practice of going to school 7 hours every day, to going to their various classes at the secondary level, for the younger children to going to school, going to a cafeteria, having recess, having literacy instruction, math instruction, science, and social studies, going to their arts classes. So much of this has been lost in the last year and a half. So just regaining that, it will take some practice and routine.
Dr. Contreras, can I ask one other quick question, if you don't mind?
Yes, of course.
What's your expectation about the turnout for summer school, and how much greater will it be than a typical summer before COVID?
Yeah, so first I want to say the sheer number of students is different. A year and a half ago, or 2 years ago, we had 1,200 students enrolled in summer school. As of today, we have 15,710, which is just huge. We have about 1,600 educators, and we still have about 29 vacancies that we have to fill. We're going to fill those with some central office staff, and we're interviewing external candidates now, but certainly because of ESSER funds, we've been able to fill those positions pretty quickly. Teachers have been willing to work. I'm sorry, I forgot the gist of your question. Could you say that?
No, sorry. No, Dr. Contreras, I just want to double check something. You said 2 years ago, summer school enrollment was around 1,200. Now it's going to be over 15,000.
Yeah, close to 16,000, and we're still enrolling. And you asked about the day. So in the past, summer school has been a few hours a day. Now summer school is a full day, and it's pretty exciting for us because it's more like a camp. So yes, they do have summer school, and they have literacy and math, but we're also offering enrichment opportunities for students at the elementary, middle, and high school level, so they can explore and advance their opportunities and growth in visual arts, theater, art, dance, music, in the sciences, robotics, artificial intelligence. So in the morning, they might be in their reading class. In the afternoon, they may be in robotics. So we are providing more opportunity for students. And we do believe that's one of the reasons more students are enrolled. It's very difficult for parents to find half-day childcare. But because summer school is all day long, we think more parents are taking advantage of the opportunity.
And then next we're
Thank
going
you,
to go
Dr.
Carrie
Contreras.
Brown, and then I see Jesse Pounds has her hand up.
Hi, Dr. Contreras.
Hi.
Hi there. I wanted to ask you about the ESSER funding since you kind of brought it up. One thing is I know we've been using it for, accelerate learning and fill in those gaps and for teachers and the
I'll add it
summer
to the
learning as
budget.
well. But is there, as we move forward and I know the third phase of this is coming through, are there other things that the district is using that money for that I guess that really stand out or that, I don't want to say interesting, but like that you feel that are just like really big deals for the district, because it seems like this funding is a rare thing. Is there anything else you could talk about that you guys are using that money for?
So we are using it for tutoring, as we said, millions of dollars in tutoring. We're using millions of dollars in ESSER funds for materials, for band uniforms, to hone up our libraries and media centers. So we're giving $25 per student allocations for every library media center in the district. Some of the collections are very, very old. We are making sure that we provide bonuses for all of our classified staff so that it equates to about $15 an hour until the Board of County Commissioners can generate enough revenue to provide all of our classified employees with a raise to $15 an hour. So we're getting up to, we're giving bonuses that get us to that rate. We are building an outdoor classroom in every single school so that we have more outdoor learning spaces for students. We are including tens of millions of dollars for facilities upgrades, HVAC, window upgrades to make sure there's more fresh air in the buildings. I'm trying to think of all the things. Mrs. Henry, there's some other things I'm sure. I'm going to ask my CFO because we've worked on this for so long, but there's a lot in that budget. Oh, giving, hold on one moment. We're giving scholarships to our students who are graduating for the next 3 years, paying 4 years of 4 years tuition if they will come back and teach in GCS for 5 years. So we're paying for that. We're also paying a full year residency for North Carolina A&T students that will come and do a full year teaching residency and then teach for 5 years here. We'll pay for their master's degree and pay for that 1 year residency. And then they'll give us 5 years of teaching, particularly for math and science teachers. So we are really investing in the long term. Also looking to invest in candidates who want to go into social work, psychology, and some of the support fields in the district. So pretty exciting time. There's a lot in that budget to make sure that we provide support services for students, that we provide academic supports, and that we're able to fill the hundreds of vacancies, teaching vacancies that we have every year. Mrs. Henry?
Thank you. Yes, I want to add to that the recruitment and retention incentives that we've got for our highly effective teachers, the teachers who would best serve our students. We've got that included in the ESSER funds. We've also got some things that'll benefit our students long-term, some assistance with transportation to get our students from high schools to GTCC so they can take advantage of the Career College Promise so they can earn a college credit while they're still in high school, and we can provide that opportunity to more students. So again, there are lots of exciting things in there that we're looking forward to implementing.
Perfect. And then we're going to go to Jesse Pounds and then Laura Levitt. And we are getting a little close to time, so I just want to make sure we at least get to everyone. So Jesse, you can go ahead.
Okay. I I had two questions related to school security and the recent incident, and then one question for summer school. So first thing I wanted to piggyback on Tyler. He had sort of a multi-part question, but I think one of his questions was about lockdowns, and whether in hindsight a lockdown might have been appropriate in that situation, and how you think about lockdowns if there's, you know, possibly like a group of people attacking a student in a class or something like that.
Yeah, so generally speaking, I would say a lockdown is appropriate. The incident is still under investigation, so I can't really speak to every detail of what happened, but I would say generally speaking, when there is a large fight, a school is placed on lockdown. That is a normal procedure.
I also wanted to ask about, you had a number of schools that did a pilot program with a one card situation where students would show or swipe an ID when they came into class. You know, generally a pilot is, you're kind of checking it out to see, is this good? Does it work? Is it going to be, you know, something that's reasonable to expand to other schools? What have you learned from the schools where you tried it? Did it seem to be working well, or was it kind of maybe not something that you all are so interested in?
Yes, we intend to continue with the one card program. I think that there are many components of the one card initiative that aren't completely in place. So swiping in is not in place yet. The wearing the ID is in place. It's a multi-million-dollar initiative that was not completely funded. We are going to be able to have the machines that allow every student to swipe in to a building once the fall begins. But we knew it would take 3 to 4 years. I think what you're asking is gets to a really important point, however. Even before I arrived in the district has asked for safety and security funds every single year. Most people don't realize that the only way the district generates revenue or receives funding is from the state for personnel or from the county for facilities and for anything above what the state provides. If our facilities request, our capital request is denied, we have no way to fund those initiatives. So every year that I've been here and the years prior to that, every single capital request has been denied. So we've received some, but we've received very little. And you all are journalists. I encourage you to go back and look at what we asked for, what we received, and compare that to Charlotte-Mecklenburg and Wake County. And you'll see the huge difference. So we certainly believe that there is much that can be done in the school district to improve academics, to improve social emotional learning, to improve health, and safety and security. But there has to be an investment in the school system. And it has not been for the lack of the board asking that this hasn't been done in the district.
I wanted to make sure I understood what you were saying in relation to the pilot program, because my recollection was, you know, going out to one of those schools and seeing students swipe in on the first day of, you know, the first day of swiping. Did you pause the swiping at those schools? Because I know you were just saying the swiping's not there.
No, I'm saying that in totality, all schools have the one card, the actual ID itself. Every school has that. Schools, we also have a pilot where you swipe onto the bus for certain schools, but not all schools have the piece where you can swipe in yet, but we will have that for 100% of the schools. in the fall. Again, I have to keep stressing this because I want to make sure you all understand this. In this incident, they were helped into the school by Southern students. The bell had just rung. The layout of the school is such that the office is not at the front door. It's a school built in the 70s, which is one of the reasons we have argued that Southern Guilford High School should be rebuilt. Many of you were at the meeting, the joint facilities meeting, where two of the members there argued that Southern should not be rebuilt. After we argued that the school poses safety issues when the office is in the middle of the school, because there's no clear line of vision to watch who's coming into that building. So I think it's important to do thorough journalism here.
I'm sorry, are you saying that it was the front door that they came in?
Jesse,
Okay.
I've got to stop just because we've got other people that want to ask questions. I think she just wanted a clarification that it was the front door that they came in.
Yes.
Okay, come back around to me for the
Okay.
for this summer school and
Sounds
let
good.
these people go
I
first.
think Laura was next, and then Yasmin Register, if she has a question.
Hey Jansen, it's Leanne on Laura's computer from WXII. Hi, Dr. Contreras.
Hi.
I was curious if you could offer some insight into how one even goes about measuring learning loss. You mentioned that we won't understand the full scope for some time, but could you share a little bit about how educators even go about trying to quantify that, trying to figure out how behind students are?
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing your question. What are we talking about right now?
Oh, can you all hear me or no?
I can hear you. She wants to know how you quantify learning loss, just the process. Just you had said it would be tough to kind of measure after one summer. She just wants to know what kind of goes into that for parents.
Yeah, that's a great question. And there actually is a definition. I'm going to turn this to Dr. Oakley to give an explanation.
Good afternoon. So yes, I mean, learning loss is really measured in terms of where students are versus where they're supposed to be based on what the grade level standard calls for. What we do know about the nature of school closures is that students who are facing inequities before school closure are going to face even greater learning loss. It's not learning loss that can be recovered in one summer. It's going to take years to overcome the results of 2 very interrupted years of learning. What we do know is that learning loss is greater in math than it is in reading, and we see this trend across the nation. Lots of school districts are using different measures to measure learning loss. Guilford County Schools is making sure that we use assessments that are given in person, like the NWEA MAP assessment that we gave in grades K through 10, but we won't really fully understand the impact of learning loss until we give that assessment multiple times. We gave it this year, we'll give it 3 times next year, and we'll really see how we're stacking up against districts like ours across the nation.
And a follow-up question, if you guys can hear me. How will students, I'm just concerned, like you mentioned, about students who are already behind. How do you ensure that students aren't punished in the long run for this learning loss? Can you?
I think what we have to do is ensure that we are committed to accelerating the learning of students, understanding where they are, making sure that teachers have the training that they need to support students. What we're going to have is students at all different levels entering the classroom in the fall and in the summer, and making sure that teachers have the diagnostic tools and the instructional materials they need to accelerate learning for each individual student. There's going to be such a variance across our district, across our schools, and across individual classrooms that teachers must have the data that they need to inform their instruction accordingly, so that students aren't then put in a remedial course or set further behind. We have to accelerate learning moving forward, and it's going to take years to do so.
And then Yasmin, register if you had a question from the Peacemaker.
No, I don't have a question. Thanks.
Okay, that's great. I think we've got time for 2 more. And Jesse, just the way the carousel went, I don't think we'll make it back to you. So please just email me your question or call me and we can get you that answer. I think Tyler and Manning had the last 2.
Yes, thank you again. And just a quick follow-up, Dr. Contreras, I know that you touched on funding for security and how those requests have been denied. I know in 2018, the county commissioners allocated the $10 million for security for the school system, and wanted to see, based off of that, how has that money been used, if any, from your perspective? And is there an idea of what it would take to upgrade the cameras and security systems in all the schools to ensure they all were working properly and or addressing those safety concerns that we're hearing of?
All right, so first, I think you realize, Tyler, that the district received $63,000. We never received that safety and security money. I think you all realize that now after watching that Board of County Commission meeting. So despite the misinformation that seemed to be prevalent, the district never received the funds. So I want us all to be clear on that. Secondly, if you look at the newest schools in the district, remember that as part of the facilities master plan, there's an amount attributed to or listed for safety upgrades in new schools. Those are our schools in good repair. That amount is $66 million. For all other schools, though, we have renovations or rebuilds. So that's the $1.6 billion that we keep hearing about going back to the voters for that. Now, certainly, there are some intermediate steps that can be taken while we wait for a new bond referendum. That has not been costed out because the schools are in such dire shape that there was the hope that there would have been a much larger bond referendum placed to the requested of the voters, but there wasn't. So now we can go back. We can ask our technical assistance partners to help us determine if there is interest in paying for some of the security measures in the schools that need to be completely rebuilt or completely renovated. How much would that cost? We would have to somehow parse that out because they costed out all the security upgrades in the rebuild and the renovations, believing that there would be a much larger bond referendum placed to the voters back in November. But if the point I'm trying to make, if the new buildings are $66 million, the older buildings will be much, much more expensive.
And then Manning with the last one from WFMY.
Hello again, Dr. Contreras. It was brought to our attention by a producer today that there is a peaceful demonstration or a declaration, as they called it, outside of the administration building on Eugene Street at 4 p.m. tomorrow from parents who wish to have an open, demand that Guilford County Schools opens their board meetings to the public, taking public comments. And again, a peaceful declaration. Do you guys have a reaction and response? Did you know about this in advance?
No, and the board meetings are in the purview of the school board, not the superintendent. So that would be a question for the board chair, the board vice chair.
Perfect. And Superintendent Contreras, is there anything else that you would like to say before we go?
No, just thank you all for your questions and for helping us to clarify information with the public. I think one of the more difficult or one of the challenges that school districts face is social media moves so fast that there's lots of information that is just plain inaccurate. And we are so dependent on each of you and your great journalism to help provide the public with accurate information. It doesn't matter to me whether you agree with us or not. What matters is that the public has good information and they're able to make their own judgment based on accurate information. And for each of you, or to each of you, I'm very grateful for the role that you play in that. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for
Can I ask
coming.
one tiny question. It was just about the facility study. It was a $2 billion study that identified the needs, right? I just want to make sure I was correct on that. Is that right? The master facility study.
The study indicated that there was about, I think, 2.4 billion in need, 2.6 billion in need, and the new schools alone required $66 million to upgrade security, and those are buildings that are essentially new.
Wow. Okay.
And they need $66 million to upgrade security. So without having specifics on the older buildings, because they're complete renovations or rebuild, I couldn't tell you exactly how much it would cost to upgrade the security, but I'm trying to get us to imagine how costly it could potentially be if for brand new buildings, it's $66 million.
Thank you guys so much. Jesse, I will email you, email me your question, and then Manning, on yours, there is a discussion on the agenda tomorrow. If you look at the agenda of reopening the board of it.
For just quick clarity, when you mentioned new buildings, how many buildings
Tyler,
are those?
we've got to go. We're like 15 minutes over. I'm so sorry.
Okay, this was, I'll message you. Thank you, James.